Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. And what we're going to make are cookies. We're going to make chocolate sugar cookies, but we're going to make them very big, large, very big. And this recipe will yield you about 8 super large cookies. Now, of course, if you want to make them smaller, you'll adjust your baking time, that kind of thing. But making them the size that I'm going to show you in a few seconds here is that you do get 8 of them. Okay, now what you're going to do is you are going to use a 2.5-inch ice cream scoop, or you're going to need to measure out and quite a few tablespoons to make this large of a cookie. Okay, and I will put below the video how many tablespoons it takes, okay? Because I don't have it right now at the top of my head here. So, but this is a 2.5 inches, okay, ice cream scoop. Now, getting these chocolate cookies made and put together, it's really simple and it's fast. We're going to first start off with 1 stick or 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, okay? Now, I know I'm probably going to get someone's going to write and say, well, what if I only have salted butter? Go ahead. All you're going to do, as I would suggest, is to cut the salt down by, by 50%. But anyway, this is 1 stick of butter, unsalted butter, and I'm going to break it up. Now, the mixer can be loud, so I'm going to give you a heads up every time that I turn it on, okay? So, here we go. Recipe with your hand mixer if you want. I like the stand-up because I think it's quicker for the videos, and you'll want to cream your butter, and whatever that takes you depending on the speed and where you're using a hand mixer versus a stand-up. But anyway, just cream the butter. Again, I no longer give the recipe below the video, so hopefully I'm going to go through the recipe slowly enough and clearly enough that if you want to jot it down, you can. So just to, reverse for a second, what I've creamed and broke up was 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, or 1 stick. Well, the next thing we're going to be putting in is 1.5 cups of granulated sugar to the butter. And prepare for the noise. Some time with this. It might be 2 minutes, it might be 3 minutes, really depending on what you're using, but you do want to combine it so that the butter and the sugar is very light and fluffy. Okay, the next thing that we're going to be putting in is 1/2 cup of shortening. Now, for some of you that don't like shortening, you can go ahead and use butter. But you'll want to melt the butter and cool it, just as I did with this shortening. It's set up a little bit. It was actually a little thinner from the microwave, but it sets up as it cools down. But you can clearly see that it's melted, so it's very pliable. And I like using the solid shortening because I think it gives texture to the cookie. I think it gives it that extra crispness to it. So I'm going to put that in now, okay? And I do realize there are some people that can't buy shortening, or have written to me and said they can't get it where they live. So if you don't like shortening or you can't get it, then just again now use 1/2 cup of butter. But I'm using the solid shortening, melted and cooled. And again, I'm going to blend that in. Warn you about the sound. again, I generally would use a medium speed, but I'm moving it along to the video. The next thing is put in 1 egg at room temperature, and let's beat that in. Okay, and again, spend time with it. You know, it might take you 2 minutes, it might take you 3 minutes, depending on what you're using, you know, as well as the speed that you're using. But you want it to be very light and very fluffy, okay? All right. The next thing we're going to do is put in vanilla. And you're going to need 1½ teaspoons of vanilla. And let's beat that in. Okay. And now I'm just going to get to the sides of my mixing bowl and get to the bottom where it tends to stick. And blend that in. And again, spend some time, you know, maybe it'll be a minute or two. Now let's talk about the dry ingredients. You're going to need 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, and you're going to need 1/2 cup of unsweetened baking cocoa. Now that's not the, you know, the mixes that you make hot chocolate out of. This is just the baking unsweetened cocoa. And with my little whisk here, I'm just kind of bringing it all together, mixing it, stirring it together. And you're also going to be putting in baking powder, and that's 1 teaspoon of baking powder, okay? And I'm going to give that a good little stir. And then you're going to put your salt. And with your salt, you're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now, if you're using salted butter, I would cut that again in half, okay? And if you really didn't, I've done it, and it really doesn't taste that much difference, okay? So now I'm going to slowly add the dry to the wet to make the cookie dough. And we'll start off low so that the flour and doesn't go all over the kitchen. And I generally do that very slow, and then as it's starting to mix, you know, I can raise my speed. Okay, what's nice about this is you don't want to over beat the cookies, because you don't want them tough, you don't want them dense. You want a crisp cookie, but you want them chewy, okay? So I'm just going to take off my excess off my paddle here. Now, you can go ahead and use this cookie dough right away if you want, but I prefer to put it in the fridge for about, you know, 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes in the freezer. I like it to be set up just a little bit, especially today. My kitchen is very warm. And now I'm just going to bring it all together. If I've missed some areas here by the mixing paddle, the mixing blade. But you don't want to overbeat it. You just want to bring in the cookie dough till it's combined, okay? And this is how it will look, all right? Now again, you can go ahead and use that if you want once you make it, but I like to chill mine. So I have some already chilled in this bowl. I'll show you what that looks like. Now on the on this large scoop, that's about how much you want to put in. And you're going to need a cookie pan or cookie sheet. Use your parchment paper, or you want to use your liners. Go ahead. Now you want to space these cookies about 4 inches apart because they are going to flatten out as they bake. You know, and by the way, I wanted to mention, I like to chill the batter because it's just easier to handle, that kind of thing. Now, once that you space them about 4 inches apart, you're going to bake them at 375 degrees. Now, they could take you anywhere from 18 to 20 minutes. Mine actually come up faster because, as we know, all our ovens set up differently. So start watching them. I actually start watching mine at about 15 minutes, you know, that type of thing. Now, what you'll want to do is let the hot cookies sit on the pan for just a few minutes before you transfer them to your cooling rack, because they will crack and they'll easily break for you. Now, if you want a drier cookie, because maybe you'd like to use them for ice cream sandwiches, to put ice cream or maybe a whipped topping or a filling inside of them, then bake them a little bit longer. But if you want to keep them their chewy consistency, try to stay within that time frame of these 8 cookies, okay? So again, put it in a preheated oven at 375, and again, watch them because they can easily burn. They really can. So I'm going to rinse my hands very quickly and then show you what they look like baked up. I was working with raw cookie dough with eggs, and this is how they will turn out. They will be just beautiful in size. You can see how nice these cookies are and how nice and big that they do turn out. You know, what you will have is a hard surface on the top and on the bottom, and then when you break into them, you will see how chewy and how moist that these cookies are. I hope that you can see it, that hopefully in that shot. Okay, and then I'm just going to press down on the cookie, and then you can see how moist it is when I press down on these. Oh, they have that wonderful chocolate taste to them. And then they have that chew to them. Yep, they're crispy on the bottom and they're crispy on the top. And I don't know if you can see me just as I'm pulling them apart. Oh, how moist and chewy and delicious these cookies are. They're great for dunking. They're great for, like I said, if you want to place ice cream between them, or some type of, you know, whipped topping or some type of filling. They just make for great tasting cookies, and they're large. So again, if you want more than 8, you're going to have to make them smaller, of course, and do adjust your cooking time or baking time less. Okay, so there you have it. We've got some very large, delicious chocolate sugar cookies. I hope you like this recipe, and if you do and you try it, well, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you have a question or a comment, I will do my very best to answer you in a timely fashion. I also want to remind you that I put my work only on YouTube, so if you're going to watch and you're going to be writing a question or a comment or telling me you tried the recipe, well, if you do it on YouTube, I'm going to get that message and I'm going to answer it. I want to thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. If you're so inclined and you'd like to subscribe, well, I can't thank you enough. Or ring the bell or give the video a like. Again, many thanks for watching Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. Be safe, be well, and thanks again. See you soon.